Hello, Abnormal Investigations. It's good to see you guys. A lot of you guys have been asking to see a Bigfoot encounter. Well, luckily, I have some in my Gmail, and we're going to look at a Bigfoot encounter today. For those of you who would like to get extra content, you can join our YouTube members, or you can join our Patreon for extra photographs. And we're going to start doing, I think, a live maybe once a month or once every couple of months in the Patreon. So if you would like to join that, it is in the description of this video. And to join the YouTube membership, it is on the YouTube page. You can go under there and find it, and can unlock pictures and stuff to put whenever you post. You'll have pictures beside you, and your name will also be highlighted in chat. Alright guys, let's get into this one. This happened to me and my little brother. Some background. We live in Park County, Wyoming. Our parents originally came from Texas but moved away before settling in. Our father was a good man, a cowboy and a country boy. He was an awesome dad and a loving husband. He taught me and Matt, my little brother, how to be cowboys, hunt, fish, camp, and so just to enjoy life in the outdoors since we were kids. He was always there on our special occasions. He was there when Matt and I graduated from high school, when I joined the U.S. Army, and when we got married. But sadly, after a few years, my dad passed away. The cause of death was his heart disease. My mom, Matt, and I were deeply hurt by it. We had him buried out in the open country, like he always wanted. It was hard for us to let him go. We all loved him so very much. A year later, Matt and I decided to go camping up in the mountains, just to reminisce about the good times we'd had with our dad. Our wives understood and told us to be careful. We took a couple of horses with us since our favorite spot was deep into the heart of the mountains. Once we had everything we needed, we headed off. We pulled over, which we usually do, saddled up the horses with all of their stuff, and rode to the campsite. Boy, it's been a long time since the both of us came here. We had a bit of trouble finding our way, but eventually Matthew and I managed to arrive at the campsite, and it still looked the same as before. It always reminded me of what it looks like in the movie Open Range. It was midday, and the sky was covered in gray clouds, but it didn't look like it was going to rain. We tied the horses to a tree, and we went through the process of setting up our tents and starting a fire. We then sat around the campsite once we were done and talked about the good old memories we'd had. Matt said, "I sure missed being here." And then I said, "Yeah, me too. But it's not the same without Dad." Matt agreed. I looked over at Matt, who was staring at the fire, and I asked him, "When's the last time the three of us went camping?" And Matt sat there thinking about my question before responding. "When we all went on the rodeo in Weston on a weekend after you got discharged." Wow, I can't believe it's been so long. Matt agreed. Our conversations went on for a few hours, and then I decided to go hunting alone. Matt stayed behind to guard the camp. I took my rifle and one of the horses with me, and I made my way into the woods. A few minutes of walking, I hunkered down and waited for an animal to come by. Eventually a deer did come by, and I ended up killing it. I had to go through the process of skinning it before mounting it on my horse. I walked back to camp while I was leading the horse. As I was walking, I felt a sudden feeling of being watched. I even felt goosebumps around me. I didn't think anything of the distance, but then everything went quiet all of a sudden, and it was so quiet I couldn't hear anything. And I know, of course, when the woods goes quiet, that means there's a predator in the area. I figured it was probably just a bear. I looked around, but there was only so much I could see. I kept going, but I was still cautious with my surroundings. When I got back, everything went back to normal again, and I saw Matt was preparing some canned food we'd brought, and it was already starting to get dark. Matt and I made the most of it, and we had dinner. The next morning, we went fishing at a nearby lake. It was peaceful and all. As we fished, we continued talking. We switched to the topic about cryptids, mostly Bigfoot, and how we always hope to encounter him, or at least see sightings of him out here. And Matt asked me, he said, "Do you really think that he exists?" And I told him, I said, "Bigfoot, well, maybe, but that's probably more popular back east. Out here in the west, it's rare. You know how folks are, even if they catch a glimpse of him. My brother agreed and said, yeah, probably, but you'll never know. He might be out here watching us right now. I laughed and said, okay, I think you and your woman have been watching too many Mountain Monster episodes. He scoffs at me and kind of gets angry, and he shuts up, as he always does when he gets a little frustrated. We managed to catch a few fish, but ended up releasing them. After a good 2 hours, we headed back to camp, but then something caught Matt's eye. I asked him, I said, do you see something? He walked over to get a better look. I followed along, and it was a trail of footprints. They didn't look like they belonged to an animal. I know, in fact, they weren't normal. It was like a rectangle with curved sides. But one footprint had a circular shape on the top right and one on the top left, almost looking like a toe of some sort. Matt said to me, there's no way that's a Sasquatch trail. I said, nah, it's probably some fool from another camp just messing with us. And Matt said, since when do folks start coming here? We're the only ones who know this spot. I said, I don't know, let's just chalk it up to being a bear then. He agreed, and we moved on. We made it back to camp, but we both couldn't get that footprint off our minds. Just the way it looked didn't look like someone would try to prank us. We talked about going back just to see where they led. In the end, we went back, but armed just in case. Once we found them, we followed them. Every step seemed to be like 3 feet away from each other. As we were following them, I felt that feeling again, like we were being stalked. I couldn't tell Matt, can I feel it too? But we just kept going eventually. The trail led us to the fallen tree. I can tell this was made recently. It didn't look like it was caused by the wind. It looked like something actually pushed it over with strong force and weight. I think my theory was right because I found what looked like to be fur or hair from something. Matt asked me, do you think that's a bear? And I said, I don't think so. If it was, then it must have been huge and strong to bring down a tree like this one. Matt then decided to try something out. He told me about how the Sasquatch communicated with others by banging a large piece of log against a tree. He grabbed a log and banged it against the tree. Thud. The sound of the thud echoed throughout the forest, but we heard nothing. He tried again with a louder thud and waited, but this time we heard it. A distant thud. We looked at the direction of where the noise came from. We looked at each other with shocked expressions. We heard it again, followed by what sounded like a growl mixed with below, a thud, a growling. There were no words to describe what I was feeling. Then out of nowhere, a large rock came out of nowhere and almost hit us. But luckily, we were able to get out of the way of it. We both made a run for it back to camp. As we were running, it felt another boulder, missing my shoulder. We didn't stop until we reached the safety of our camp. This thing was trying to pelt us. It took us a minute to breathe, and we just laughed it off in the end. All I can say is that whatever threw those boulders must have been strong because they looked very heavy for even a normal person to be able to throw. Max says, looks like we called him Bigfoot, and I said, ain't that the truth? I believe we really might have. We didn't know what to do next, but for the safety of the horses, we decided to take them back to the truck, except for one in case we had to get out of there. I doubt that a Bigfoot or whatever followed us back, or at least I thought that night was uneventful. And we ended up going to sleep, maybe 2 hours of sleeping. I heard Matt's tent unzip. I assumed he was going to take a leak. But then a few minutes later, I heard my tent unzip and Matt came in with a surprised look. I asked him, I said, bro, what are you doing? He said, quietly, shh, listen. Then we heard the footsteps. We heard a pair of footsteps coming from the darkness, and they sounded really heavy. At first, I thought it was a bear, but we heard that familiar growl again. A low, guttural growl. Matt and I were really scared at this point. I grabbed my rifle and readied it. We heard the thing going through our stuff, maybe helping itself out to our food. My hands were shaking at this point. I crawled over to the zipper of my tent and peeked out in horror. There it was. Part of it was illuminated by what's left of the fire. It was crouched down. It was big as a bear, but I could only imagine how huge it was if it stood up. It had fur or hair all over its body, and its arms looked like it was strong enough to rip a man apart. I heard the horse got spooked. It was making noise as if it was startled. The creature looked in the direction of the horse, and its eyes were glowing a greenish color. I felt like it spotted me and came closer to my tent, but I didn't hesitate to shoot it. I heard it roar in pain with every shot I hit. It then took off into the darkness, off into the woods, but I can still hear it near our camp. Matt and I ran for the horse and rode to the truck. He took out his flashlight to illuminate the way. We made it to the truck and put the horse in with the rest. We heard that thing roar again. Matt turned around to find us with his flashlight, and I spotted it maybe 30 yards away, and it was charging toward us in a full run, dropping to all fours. We scrambled into the truck and we hightailed it out of there. We were both scared and confused at what had just happened. We stopped at a motel for the night, and in the morning we drove home. I guess we were still pretty shocked because our wives asked us what happened. We lied and told them, of course, that a bear had attacked us and it scared us and we had to leave early. We knew that if we told them the truth that they wouldn't believe us. They probably made jokes of it from now on. We know what we've seen, and it scared the hell out of us. And all I can say is there is Bigfoot in Wyoming. Me and my friends seen him, and we know he exists. He will follow you, and he will hunt you, and he will try to hurt you. Thank you for sharing my story. Thank you for sharing your encounter. I know all too well about the rocks. I had a rock miss my head. I heard it go past my ear, and it struck my mom in the ankle, hurting her, and then it hit my truck with one and dented my truck in one night when it was me and my mom and my kids. I know they're out there also, and they do throw rocks at you, and they do try to hurt you, and I don't believe they're peaceful. I believe they're just as dangerous as any other cryptid. That night, they hurt my mom. They actually hurt her ankle. They bruised it, and you can see where the rock hit her. These things are not nice. Until next time, guys, keep your head on a swivel, don't be something's dinner, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for your support.